Today we're ranking the Scream franchise. Let's go. Greetings everyone! Well, hello. My name is Nightshade. This is The Night Shift, a home for all things spooky. Now, I love the Scream franchise, and in preparation for Scream 6, I went ahead and rewatched the entire franchise. And I figured while we're all waiting for Scream 6 to come out this Friday, let's go ahead and rank the franchise as it is now. And I want to preface this by saying I don't hate any of these movies. This is one of the few horror movie franchises where I enjoy every single movie in the franchise. So I'm pretty much just ranking these from least best to best. Make sense? Good. So here is my list. There are many like it, but this one is mine. But before we get into my list, I want to hear from you. Go ahead and leave your Scream franchise rankings in the comments below. I look forward to reading them. Now, number 5 on my list is Scream 3. Now, this movie is a lot of fun, and if you go into it with an open mind and realize that it's just kind of a shitpost and expect a bad horror movie, then you're gonna have a good time. Now, it's super ridiculous in some of the best ways, and I really have a fun time with this movie. However, the reason I'm ranking it so low is because it has one major sin that I just can't look past. And that is retconning Billy and Stu's motive. That's gonna be a no for me, Chief. Like, making it to where Roman was the reason that Billy and Stu went on their killing spree is kind of a big no-no for me. It takes away from how good Billy and Stu's motives were, and I can't forgive that. Another reason it's so low is that the violence in this movie is toned way down by comparison of the rest of the movie. Now, the reason the violence is toned down is because, unfortunately, Columbine had just recently happened, and they wanted to tone down the violence in this movie, which I get it, but I mean, it's a slasher flick. There's going to be violence. And whenever you tone down the violence in any slasher flick, like, you know, Friday the 13th Part 7 comes to mind, they just end up falling kind of flat and not being a good slasher flick. Also, I'm not a huge fan of the voice changer either. Like, back then, that technology really didn't exist, and these films are based in realism. And that being said, if they did this today and said that it was like an AI-based voice changer that could steal somebody's voice, I mean, it's practical today, but like back then, it wasn't a thing. But it is what it is. I mean, Scream 3 is still a very fun movie, and I will watch it anytime that it's on. And now for number 4, which is Scream 4, or Scream 4M, depending on who you are. Now, this spot was close to the next one on the list. They were like really neck and neck for the longest time. But because of nostalgia, I had to rank this one just a little bit lower for a couple reasons. Now, I love this movie, and I really love the Ghostface in this movie. I like that the robes are more black in this one and less sparkly. I like things to be the blackest blacks that they could be. I'm a gothy boy. And I genuinely like all the characters in this movie, which I think is something that is necessary for a good Scream. Because when you like a character, you get nervous for their safety whenever they have an encounter with Ghostface. And I do love the kills in this movie. The kills are really good. There was somebody with some intestines hanging out, and that was pretty good. And this movie contains one of my favorite Ghostface masks of all time, which is the reshoot mask. I can't wait till we get one of those on the channel. Now, the reason that this one got kind of beat out by the other one is because of nostalgia, for one. I'm also not a huge fan of the CGI knives. Like, it's hard to notice at first, but whenever you notice it, you can't unsee it. It bothers me. Also, the motive is kind of lackluster. Like, sure, a lot of people will do a lot of dumb things to get famous. Somebody might wear a pumpkin mask and do unboxings on YouTube or something like that. I don't know. But the fact that fame was the primary motivator in murdering a bunch of people just feels kind of silly. And as somebody that is into cinematography and filming things, I also do not like the daytime shots where everything looks like it's a dream. It almost looks like there's Vaseline on the screen or something like that, and they just didn't wipe it off, and everything's kind of got this glowy little haze on it, and I'm not a fan of that, really. But yeah, I still love this movie, and I find myself watching this more and more, especially as of recent. I just find more enjoyment out of it. But anyways, it's on to my third pick, which is Scream 2. Now, I know that this is most people's favorite sequel in the franchise. As a matter of fact, it was my favorite sequel for the longest time. But the older I get, the more my taste in movies changes, I guess. Like, it is an amazing follow-up to the first one. And again, I love all the characters in this movie. I also love the majority of the kills in this movie. And I also love the fact that this movie does not start off with a phone call. They don't all have to, you know. know, I kind of hope Scream 6 doesn't start with a phone call. But yes, I really do love this movie. And fun fact, this was the very first horror movie my mom ever took me to go see in theaters. And that was back when I was probably too young to be watching horror movies. However, my mom is awesome. Now, as much as I love this movie, there are a few sins, a few fouls, a few wrongdoings that prevent this from going any higher in my list. One of the main ones is the stupid singing in the cafeteria scene. Like, that makes me cringe every time I watch it. I always have to fast forward through that because it makes me cringe and want to crawl out of my skin every time I see it. Now, another reason that this one kind of falls lower on the scale is because it just feels slower to me for whatever reason. Like, I don't know that the pacing of this movie is actually slower, it just feels slower to me. I just find myself skipping through a lot of the movie to the Ghostface parts and the parts with Randy and Dewey. Which brings me to my next point, which is they killed Randy. I remember that genuinely disappointing me as a kid. He was my favorite character in Scream 1 and Scream 2. I remember seeing that as a kid, and I remember being so upset that they did my boy dirty like that. And if you couldn't tell, I'm still not really over it. Also, I'm about 50-50 on the motive of the killers. Like, Mrs. Loomis's reveal made sense. That was something that made sense. Like, her son died. They turned her into Pamela Voorhees and went to go murder everybody that was responsible for why her son died. That makes perfect sense. Mickey, on the other hand, his motivation was dumb as shit. Nowadays, it's all about a trial, baby. And while we're talking about Mickey here, can we stop doing this in Scream films? Now, when Ghostface finally revealed themselves, can they stop turning into cartoon characters? It's unnecessary. Well, Stu Macher's was really acceptable because he's that way in the entire movie. When somebody's cool, calm, and collected throughout the entire movie, and then turn into this cartoon character, this Looney Tunes stupid character, it annoys me. Like, Mickey might be the worst perpetrator out of all of them because it's not even funny, it's just annoying. You can't out Matthew the Lillard and you can't out Macher the Stu. It's impossible, so don't try. But other than that, Scream 2 is just very kind of middle of the road for me as far as the rest of the franchise goes. And honestly, this is going to be ranked number 4 for me. The only reason it didn't is because of the nostalgia of going to see this movie in the theaters with my mom. So that's pretty much all I got to say about Scream 2. So that's going to lead us to my number 2 pick, which is Scream 2022. I find myself watching this movie a lot, and these are among my favorite Ghostface portrayals of all time. And that's because each Ghostface has a personality. Like, when Richie's Ghostface, he is no nonsense, straight to the point. He goes for the jugular and he just goes straight in for the kill. And then you've got Amber, who is super aggressive and really, really stabby with it. Like the way that she stabs Chad and the way that she kills Sheriff Judy, it's very stab happy and throwing caution to the wind, and I really love that. I really enjoy that both Ghostfaces have their own personalities. I really dig that. They haven't really done that since Billy and Stu. And speaking of Ghostface, this is probably one of my favorite Ghostface robes. Like, if you look closely, the outfit is very tattered and very torn, almost looks homemade. There's a lot of fraying all over the suit, and I really enjoy that. And also, the kills are among some of the best in the franchise. Like, sure, they're just a bunch of knife stabs, but they're done really well in their execution. Get it? Execution? Huh? And again, this is another one of those movies where I really do enjoy all of the characters in it, as well as a cameo appearance for one of my favorite YouTubers, which is Dead Meat. Like, I distinctly remember being in the theater and going, it's Dead Meat! It was super cool to see them in there. And the atmosphere and the lighting of this movie was really good, and the cinematography is just beautiful. And I remember leaving the theater feeling super satisfied with this movie, unlike Halloween Ends. Now, there are 2 major pet peeves that I have with this movie, and that is Ghost Billy. You could have done Billy's daughter without her seeing Ghost Billy. It didn't need to happen. And there's a piece of dialogue in this movie that really, truly makes me cringe every time I hear it, which is,
"Never fuck with the daughter of a serial killer."
That didn't have to be a thing. It really didn't. Outside of that, I really enjoyed this one. And they had the balls to do what Scream 4 did not. And that is killing one of the main survivors. And it's unfortunate that it was Dewey. I mean, he died in a cool way. It's just the sentiment remains the same. They killed one of the legacy characters, which I respect. This was definitely one of my favorite releases in 2022 by far. And that's all I really got to say about Scream 2022 or Scream 5 Cream, whatever you want to call it. Which brings us to the number 1 movie in my list, which is Scream. I mean, come on, did you think it was going to be anything else? I mean, this movie is almost perfect. The only flaw and nitpick that I have is the K&B mask, and I mean, I'm starting to enjoy that mask more and more, but it is still kind of jarring. Other than that, it's an iconic movie. It revitalized the slasher genre, and it gave us a horror icon which is still going strong today. And Scream is definitely on my Mount Rushmore of all-time favorite horror movies. Now, a lot of you guys know that Halloween is my all-time favorite horror movie, and Scream is a very close second for me right now. And after rewatching it, I just kind of fell in love with it all over again. I love every character, I love the ghost face, I love the motives, and I love everything about this movie. Friday needs to hurry up and come here so I can watch Scream 6, and I'm also going to be doing a review on Scream 6 next week, so make sure you're subscribed and turn on the notifications so you can check that out. So that's just gonna about do it for me. If you made it this far in the video, firstly, I gotta say I greatly appreciate you taking the time to watch the whole thing. And also, if you want me to rank other franchises, let me know in the comments below. I had a lot of fun doing this video. Maybe we'll do the Halloween franchise, I don't know. So until next time, my name is Nightshade. This has been The Night Shift, and I will see you in the next video. Stay spooky, my friends. I'll see you in the next one.